So. Oh yeah, hello there kitties. This is the vacuum tube witch in the house again. Of course I forgot to start the stream on YouTube side. Looks like I really need to do it more often. like all the intro, I saw it on monitoring in the stream control panel on YouTube, but it looks like it didn't get an error. Got some beer. To the best of Clive's tradition. And I've got some... 20 more minutes. That's 20 minutes. And today I was at Fab Lab. It's a very nice and pretty well equipped place. Not that far away from where I live. Quite a nice workshop they have there. They've got 2 laser cutters, they've got a bunch of 3D printers, they've got a bloody awesome woodworking workshop. And I went there because I go there every 2 weeks. I was hoping to do some electronic repairs, but that doesn't happen because I didn't have the parts. But I gotta move on with my Dirty Dozen projects. Laser cutters scare you shitless? Oh no. It's sharks! With friggin' lasers attached to their beams! But what I did... It's just the box with no front panel as of yet. But I gotta move on with the Dirty Dozen project. Found some scrap plywood and used the circular saw to cut the pieces. And then I used the clamps to join those pieces. Pretty easy and elegant. I will also be making a either wooden or metal front panel that fills in some of the space around the hole. And what I definitely would like to do is adding the perforated piece of sheet metal because I absolutely like the translucent perforated metal and vacuum tubes behind it. So I might not have had too much progress on this project. I don't even remember when I made the last episode on it, but I'm also doing some out of the chassis prototyping. Today I put together the tone stack and preamp, and it will take some more experimenting with various resistors and capacitors. And after I'm happy with the results, I will build what I designed in the proper chassis, and that will be the Dirty Dozen amplifier. I think that for the time being, I will start with finishing the phase inverter on this thing, because that would allow me to hook up the Dirty Dozen as a power amplifier. I would then be able to connect it with the speaker, and probably I might run a connection from the prototype preamplifier on the breadboard to the proper power amplifier on the chassis. Let's take a look. Damn it, this teeny tiny light in the Razer Keo. It's so bright. I can't work with this thing. It's not enough for me to work on circuits, but it's perfectly enough to actually make some filming with no need for the bench light. And watch your eyes, the bench light is coming on. That's how it looks like with the bench light. I did some progress on the prototyping board with the potentiometers. Also, both the first and second stages is done. Then the third stage and the cathode follower is done. The tone stack is also done. I still need to prototype the phase inverter. If you take a closer look, those two tubes, they are not used as of now. This tube is the first and second stage, and this one is the third stage and the cathode follower. So basically, I could even prototype quite advanced preamplifiers on this board with multiple tubes, and this simple teeny tiny power amplifier, it's just something like 2 or 3 watts, but it's perfectly enough for testing. It's single-ended with a ECL 86 triode and pentode. So it's single-ended, class A, so it doesn't really need a phase inverter. But I will still prototype the phase inverter on this breadboard, because I would like to get the design right before I build it clean in the chassis. But let's put this loveliness away for a moment and talk about the big heavy project. DC 18, roll for strength. The W100 EL34 power amplifier. This thing weighs something like 40 kilos. Just take a look at it. This is the output transformer. The amplifier, it's rated at 100 watts. And this output transformer, it's enormous. Underneath this shield, we've got a power transformer. Who knows, maybe? If I try taking this thing off. No, looks like there are nuts on the underside. Shh. Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. Looks like the transformer is attached using the same set of bolts that the cover is also attached. I'd rather have the cover separately attached. Yeah, let's do some.
No, grazie.
It's a lot of work. And now oh, for crying out loud, looks like I have to undo it. Shit. So now I will have the power transformer completely unscrewed. Oh yeah. Look at this thing of beauty. It's so big. So frigging big. I ain't never seen a power transformer that big in a 100-watt amplifier. And this is the magnetic field shield. Look at that, it's welded together. Thing of beauty. Okay, back to the desk. Because waffle time is coming. Blue LEDs under bulbs. No blue LEDs here. Maybe it's just I've got purple LEDs above the desk, and also got the desk lamp. Also got a warm white LED linear equivalent of fluorescent lamp. So that would be the full light, and I will have to change the exposure. Yeah, this should be a lot better. Drunk stream. Not yet? Not yet. Yeah, prefer perforation, yeah. Hammer helps with undoing. Yeah, mother of all transformers. Hammer with undoing. Here we do undoing with something else. I love science. Yeah, Joras, yeah, Cobra works too. Especially against head crabs. Especially if you know theoretical physics. And indeed, as for the Chinese vacuum tube, well, the Chinese amplifiers with vacuum tubes above the chassis, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually vacuum tube amplifiers, because there's those tubes. Unless you reverse engineer the thing, you never know what functions those tubes do. If it's really amplifying the signal, if it's got a proper plate voltage, or if it just acts as a buffer, or if it's not even in the circuit. Now, where was that thing? Okay. Pre-woofer fueling sequence initiated. That should be enough. Hey Bob, nice to see you. And thanks a lot for helping me fulfill my dream of getting that Fran Lab t-shirt. Okay, and as for the UFO, we'll get a better view. UFO? That was with the Kio Pro on the tripod, and it's yeah, go Team FranLab, of course, and that camera is it's coming in handy, but sometimes I've got a lot of errors like lost communication and video feed freezing on that camera. And sometimes, like now, it works fine, and all it takes is to reboot the computer to make it go wrong or go right. And it was way too unreliable to work as the bench cam, but I'm slowly zooming in on the location of the problem and the source of the problem, because I did some tests on various cables with various lengths. One of them some 1.8 meters, another one 6 meters, and another one 1 meter. And contrary to what I initially thought, it didn't really depend on cable length, because at first I thought it was USB 3 cable too long without repeaters, without hubs on the way, that caused problems, but the problems were there even on a short cable, even very close to the hub. Plus there were also problems with... Oh, this calls for a close-up. Now, you deserve to see more of... You deserve to see more of his meowsomeness. Meow. Yeah. Excellent for taking close-up shots of my pussy. Oh, less best to the NASA bag is empty. It's just there as a decoration. And there's a nice story behind it because my friend Aileen once visited Florida, Cape Canaveral, and got it from there. So this is the real deal NASA stuff from the visitors complex in Cape Canaveral. And I'm quite fond of it, and this is the permanent place where I keep it, and it's always on display in my videos and streams. Yeah, demonetized for close-up shots of my pussy. Yeah. Eduardo got it right. It's Kilo Oscar, Kilo Oscar. And by the way, thanks Phil for rejoining on Patreon. Much appreciated. Okay, so now I've got something else to show you. Once I found this little thing in a bin full of parts at one of the hacker spaces in my old city in Łódź. This is a DC to DC voltage converter. I did some measurements on this, and at 12 volts input it can provide 1.3 kilovolts output. DC to DC, high voltage DC. And I'm thinking about a project I would use it for. At first I was thinking about something with oscilloscope CRTs, especially if I could power a CRT from such a low voltage, low for a CRT. But then reminded myself that I have the photo multiplier tube, and with photo multipliers we've got an anode, we've got a cathode, and we've got a bunch of intermediate electrodes called diodes, and all the electrodes are powered from a voltage divider, like something like 10 times 1 meg or something like that, so it doesn't have to be high current. There's high voltage across it, and whenever light is falling into the tube on the cathode, it strikes electrons out of the cathode. Those electrons then fly over to the diode, striking some more electrons out of the diode, and those electrons will fly to another diode, striking even more electrons, and so on, until the electrons from the last diode strike the anode, and that would be the plate current. So the photomultiplier tubes work using the secondary emission principle. Something that was a problem with tetrodes and was solved in pentodes by introducing a suppressor grid. But in photomultipliers, this is beneficial because unlike a regular photocell, we've got current amplification in the tube. And that makes the photomultiplier tube very sensitive to light. And why I'm mentioning it is that I've become pretty curious about scintillation counters lately. And I'd like to do some experiment with scintillation and gamma radiation detection. I would still need to get some scintillation crystal. That's how it works. Basically, a scintillation crystal is a piece of doped crystal that exhibits fluorescence, but when hit by high energy photons, then the gamma rays, it will emit UV or visible lights, generally lower energy stream of photons, lower energy electromagnetic wave. So it's we could say that it's a frequency downshifting device. And it allows to see the gamma rays in the form of visible light or ultraviolet. Yeah, sounds like an atom bomb. Wow! It's still nuclear physics. Yeah. Hi Al, nice to see you. It's still nuclear physics, the very core of nuclear physics, measuring the radiation. With alpha and beta, you can use ionization chambers, where, like a gas-filled cylinder with a I guess anode on the outside and cathode in the middle. That's the Geiger-Miller tube. But with gamma, it's not gonna work. You need something different, and that's why scintillation counters are used. And I guess that modern scintillation counters are rather likely to use charge-coupled devices as the light detection elements rather than photomultiplier tubes. But PMTs, photomultiplier tubes, are still used in scientific equipment. I learned just a tiny bit about this stuff when I studied chemistry. Like just to mention that there's something like photomultipliers and CCDs. We had some classes in in spectroscopy. Silicon photomultiplier, interesting. Yeah, Joel, it's gotten a little bit too sciencey, I guess. All about science. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Because I'm hearing some strange sparks in my audio system. I think I know. It's just disconnected grounds cracking when I've got the Dymo. Of course, the kitty has to do some discombobulation. This is a hacked Dymo label manager PNP. And the problem with it is that the battery, the original battery died. And I modified this thing to work on external DC power supply. If you take a closer look, you'll see the LM317 and voltage adjustment. And there's an aftermarket mod DC barrel jack on the back. So I had the power supply plugged into this thing. The power supply doesn't have grounding. And I had the USB cable and the DC power jack, and now the kitty is playing with it. So this was just making an intermittent contact with my PC's enclosure, causing cracks on the ground, and that went into my audio system, and that was where I was a little bit worried, but now I know what's happening. Yeah, modified Dymo. Drinking is a science, yeah. Less science, more drinking. And if it weren't all too late, I would try playing guitar. Or maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, drinking is a science. Well, if you conduct experiments and then have the results peer-reviewed and share them, then it's really doing science. But you really have to formulate your conjectures, hypotheses, and maybe theories, so that they are falsifiable and they stick. If you do an experiment, if someone else repeats the experiment, then they should get the same result. But I guess that with drinking, it's all too subjective to be science. Hi, Sadie. Nice to see you. Yeah, real deal science. Assistant Coco. Yeah, one of my lab assistants. There's the other one. Meet Mr. Douglas P. Ratman. Mr. Ratman, what do you think about it? Yeah. Random sparking and smell of burnt PCB. Nah, it's not that much energy to cause any magic smoke. Yeah, cute. And by the way, I was a little bit surprised to to see that Big Clive ended way before he usually ends, because I thought that he would end like always at 1:30, 1:30 in my time zone. That would be 22 UTC. But it was not even midnight in my time zone when he finished his stream. I wonder what happened, what caused him to end. I also have the ongoing project. Still gotta make the software for it, develop the software. But I can show you a little piece that's still a joy. Still a joy. Yeah. I got this to read the number dial. Still has a bug. I just feel that I need to find a longer stretch of of undistracted time to concentrate and do some programming work. Make it count. Bad phone. Utility phone for ordering pizza. I wish. What I want to do with it is making a MQTT controller for home automation devices. Got a stray carry in your shift. I am stray carry. Yeah, no one knows what I could do with a pencil. Secret passage found. Pizza on speed dial. I could control a Stargate with this thing. That's why I called it a advanced dial home device. Next time I'm making a Stargate. And speculating about the bug, it's probably some off by one error. But I still need to get some functions right. And then I will still need to add some functionality for it to display longer numbers than 4 digits. Like number scrolling. If we have a for example 7-digit number, then make it slowly scroll so that you can see all the digits and not be limited in how many digits you can enter. And then what I'm really interested in is making a home automation system using the message queue and telemetry transport protocol, the MQTT. I've got a MQTT broker installed on a Raspberry Pi in the central node of the network here, and it's working, but I will need to use, for example, some ESP8266 module and some lamps for controlling them. Then the radioactivity lamp has the ESP8266. That's so the Kia Pro lost the feed, but let's try to bring it back online. Try to bring it back online. One moment, please. Yeah, maybe another part. Hope that OBS is still working. Oh yeah. Recombobulated. Yeah, see that radioactivity lamp? The one way up there? It's controlled with OBS, and I can send some commands to it. Look at this sweet loaf. Transmission status is poor. Coco overloaded the stream with cuteness. Yeah, might be some shenanigans with my internet connection. Switching back to the main camera. And okay, what project I'm working on right now? Let me grab it. It's I found the telephone connections box in our local hackerspace and took it. And this is the project Bulbulator. And basically, it's a switched dim bulb tester. Still needs some switches that will make it to the front panel here. Then the cables are already in place. Then the connections on the light bulbs are there. And look at this. Probably 1970s or 80s. 200 watts. And the Bulbulator project will make it over there next to the white box with the controls. Yeah, Joe, the hackerspace knows that I took it because I asked them if I can take it. Not a problem. It was just lying there, waiting to be thrown away. I often take a lot of stuff that someone else throws away, and I do nice things with that. Easy bake oven. Yeah. Yes, the light bulbs will be used as resistors, but originally they were used for lighting. Nah, none of that police rubbish. Don't call 112, call 1312. Yeah, 150. Yeah, if fixtures are made of thermoplastic material, then they will only withstand smaller powers. Ceramic fixtures are way, way, way better. You really shouldn't exceed the rated power. And I've seen enough of damaged fixtures in my electrician's career. Hi, Jamie. That I just know better than to use too powerful light bulbs. Of course, nowadays it's not gonna be a problem anymore with LED light bulbs everywhere. But it used to be quite a problem with incandescent bulbs. And now I just keep incandescent bulbs as quite vintage items and also as current limiting devices. And Jamie, give my best to Alison. Yeah, it's an interesting telephone box. It was originally used as a breakout box for the multi-pair telephone cable. Like if you have a building and a multi-pair cable enters the building and it has to be broken out to individual phone lines. That's what they used it for. So it's been over an hour into the stream. I think that I will be going until 2 a.m. We'll do sugar, yeah. Recombobulating the lab. I've seen the bench. That's a nice one. I really like it. Reminds me of Mr. Carson's lab. Saved from the hipsters. Nah, we don't have that many hipsters around here. Fortunately. By the way, at some point, hi Electron Box, nice to see you. Sometimes I'm thinking that Techmon is quite a big hipster. Uh, Bob, I'm already convinced into getting a ham radio license. It's only that there's that hurdle I have to jump over. All the exam and paperwork and getting a cosign, and also getting some gear to get on the waves. But I would definitely love to become a ham radio operator. I know that this is a very traditional way of being active in the hacker and electronics engineer community, and I appreciated it because that's how things were done for many decades. And there's also a lot of room to innovate. Like you're never limited to CW and SSB. You can go more modern. Though the quaint vintage girl that I am, I would probably do more of the QRP vacuum tube transmitter stuff. M0 VLF. Mike 0 Victor Lima Foxtrot. Nice. Yeah, Carson is in his own game. I wonder what budget he runs on. My budget is tighter than Ethel Granger slices, and I always keep mentioning that. Like, a small support from Patreon that means a lot to me. And of course, any cash that I make doing repairs and doing wiring work. Commercial radio equipment. That's interesting. Yeah, I also don't hold any formal qualifications in electronics. I'm entirely self-taught. All I learned was from books and from the internet and from my practice. It's over 2 decades of tinkering with stuff. 37 by now. I started as a teen in late 1990s. First, faced by taking stuff apart, desoldering all those resistors and transistors and capacitors, and doing some projects with them. At that point, I didn't even have a scope, because scopes were expensive in 1990s. I wouldn't afford one. My first scope was when I was at high school. A scope-shaped object that was not really a scope you could do any measurements with. Then I got a vacuum tube scope for free ZRK model OS 102, clearly inspired by Tektronix. But I worked with it a few years in 2000s and sold it off, unfortunately. I needed cash back then. And I had a Hamag solid state scope from the 1980s or 90s. So I didn't need that big iron, and now I regret it. I'd love to have an working exhibit, a vacuum tube scope. And here in Poland, Tektronix scopes are unobtainium. Vacuum tube Tektronix scopes, fucking unobtainium. The only stuff you can get is on eBay from the West, but not from anyone who lives in Poland. And if anything appears by chance, like I thought, the triple nickel, the 555, but it costed like 5,000 PLN. That would be something like 1,000 Yankee bucks. Nah. If I had a chance, I would absolutely love to have a triple nickel. For the sheer thing of beauty and enjoy forever that it is. And from what I recently figured out, that France would be 564, I guess. Just let me look it up and confirm if I'm correct. Yeah, that would be that. 564 for Fran. Then the storage scope. And my new one is 468. Then the classic line from the 1980s. And it's pure loveliness. Inside it's pure loveliness. How it is built. I absolutely loved it because I already took a look inside, fixed the bent back panel issue, so I had a chance to look how it looks on the inside, and it's really well thought out. Then the assembly, the modularity, it's really well designed. What else would you expect from Tektronix? Every single one of their products must be a thing of beauty. And AJ forever. I've got that Tektronix 410 physiological monitor that I have to do a teardown of this thing, but I probably will postpone that teardown until I make myself a dual tracking power supply. And that's because that Tektronix uses plus minus 6 volts DC, and I'm not sure if the internal power supply could actually supply that without batteries, because it has a battery module with a charger, and the module provides plus and minus 6 volts DC. So I'd rather have a dual tracking power supply. Or maybe just use 2 power supplies I have on a trolley. Let's take a look. Old Polish vintage stuff. I got those power supplies and another one that goes to 10 volts. Those two go to 20 volts at max, 2.5 amps. CC and CV. I got those from a robotics association because they were getting rid of stuff. And every time I have a chance of saving some vintage loveliness from getting trashed, I do. That's why this whole lab is so cluttered with old stuff. I've got so much old stuff. It's gonna last me a lifetime to go through all of that on my channel. I've been hoarding curated collecting that stuff ever since I was a teen. Ah, hi Alison. Yeah, what's going on the chat? Yeah, Electron Box. As for being self-taught, I had some thoughts getting philosophical about it recently. Like, if you're self-taught, it's your own curiosity that drives you. It's about what you want to learn and what you feel you need to learn. And it's not about what someone else thinks you have to learn. And it has good and bad sides. Then the drawbacks, that would be that it's the collective experience and empirical knowledge than the wisdom of those before you that dictates the basic stuff like what maths what knowledge of maths you need to master the thing you want to learn. Electronics, for example, especially with all those Fourier transforms and digital signal processing. And that's pretty much a good thing. And if you're self-taught, you usually learn stuff when you need to learn that stuff. Like when trying to learn about alternating currents, at some point you will probably hit the wall trying to learn about impedance and all those complex numbers, and then you can feel that learning some advanced algebra is necessary to move on with learning electronics. And if you study in a formalized settings, you are guided by a curriculum, and curriculum is sometimes it contains a lot of redundant knowledge from unrelated areas, because it's designed with young people in mind, people who need general education, like cultural or language education, and the school needs to cram it into what you learn. But if you want to learn some specialized area like electronics, after you have done your basic education with history and science and all that stuff, you can focus on the area of interest, on that specialized field. You don't have to cram it all, having limited time, and also probably limited mental resources, because our mental resources are also limited. And sometimes curiosity is a better motivation for learning than external motivation. Yeah, know about the monies, like the title? Yeah. Copper electroforming. So that power supply must be very low voltage, something like 1 point something or 2 point something, because galvanic processes they mostly run on low voltages and high currents. And by the way, I almost missed it. Changing viewpoint. I almost missed it, but I haven't missed it. Coco, would you please help me find my lighter? Okay, tripod and desk make. And it's starting to be woofo. Don't burn the cat. Oh yeah, that's a sensible piece of advice. A very sensible piece of advice. Hi, Ravenlily. Haven't noticed you. A fnersy scope. Yeah. I'm still wondering if Diode Gone Wild has done a review and maybe a teardown of this thing, because Diode Gone Wild has become a to-go guy for reviewing the fnersy equipment. And let's read the chat some more. Learning electronics because of me, Eduardo. That's nice to hear. I feel very glad when someone tells me that I inspired them to do something, to learn, to choose, for example, electronics as their interest. I'm very glad that, like, making an impact, changing the world, one person at a time. And that feels fantastic. Yeah, vacuum tube Tektronix scopes are insanely heavy. Indeed. that ZRK OS 102, it weighed something like 25 kilos. Yeah, Carlson, I think that he has 3 labs by now. 3 buildings. Yeah, that's why I got this this 486 because first it was relatively cheap for a Tektronix scope here in Poland. 600 zloty, 600 PLN. And then I just know that vintage tech scopes, very venerable. Common brand of Polish electronics equipment. Back a few decades ago, there was a union of electronic manufacturing factories named Unitra, and there were a few tons of factories of different specialties. Some of them made TVs, other made radios, other made turntables. Some others made equipment for manufacturing electronics, or some professional devices. It was all centrally controlled, and most of the production went to export. It was mainly made under license from Western manufacturers, especially in the 70s, because the leader of the country, Edward Gierek, back then, he started a shift in the Polish economy to modernize it. And this also involved a technology transfer from the West by buying licenses to manufacture devices from Western manufacturers. In exchange for making stuff for them, like they were Western companies were sharing the knowledge in exchange for Polish factories producing devices for them to market and sell. And that kinda worked. Though Poland has run into massive debt through the 70s. Yeah, why they would get rid of something like that? Carrying it up and down the stairs. Well, if I need to carry something up the stairs, some equipment, especially when it's a lot of it, then I will go to a restaurant close by and borrow a trolley that can be used for taking stuff up and down the stairs. Otherwise, well, I've been there and done it, but it's not too good for me. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, not about the money. It's not about the money. It was just a reference to Fran's live stream a few weeks ago. Only in it for the money? And mine is not in it for the money. Yeah, starting reinventing the wheel. Yeah. The Scientist and Engineer's Guide to Digital Signal Processing sounds interesting. As a free download, that's interesting. Maybe archive.org has it. Yeah, Electron Box. I was good at maths in elementary school, but then I was weaker and weaker. To the point that when I went studying electrical engineering in 2005, I just failed my maths exams after a semester and dropped out. Then waited half a year till the next academic year started and enrolled on the chemistry studies. The maths were way simpler. And I graduated chemistry. So yeah, that would make me a scientist by education. Though I never worked in the field. I even tried to look for employment at the technical university recently. But yeah, looks like I'm unemployable. Meh. Yeah, adjustable load. That's also a useful thing. Strip the paint off your fence using a blowtorch. Interesting. Just don't burn the thing up. Don't burn the thing down. Unless you do it with the lemons. Painted black by default. Polish CPU? Interesting. Oh, election box. I live in Gdańsk. That's a big city in the north. And one of the most queer-friendly ones. Though it's not perfect, because I sometimes get a bunch of chavs commenting that when I'm going nearby. Meh. Like commenting and misgendering me and your regular queer phobia. Yeah, corporate jobs. Ah, MCY 7880. Yeah, I guess that 8080 was about as jelly bean as it could be. So I guess that Unitra and Semi also made their version of it. I'm not sure if they made their version of Zilog Z80. But 8080 was pretty popular back in the beginnings of the 80s. 8080 for the 80s. So that would make MCY 7880 what IMSI was to Altair. Yeah, I would love to see IMSI in the flesh. Biological imaging. Nice. podiatric medicine, taking footage of your feet. Interesting, Alison. I've never learned assembly language. I'm even not that good at C. I know Python pretty well, and I know C just a teeny tiny bit. I still don't get pointers. I don't know BASIC. I don't know assembly language. I'm not that much of a programmer. Although I'm pretty okay with some basic structural blocks like loops, like conditional instructions, like control flow. Also, I get computational complexity, but I'm not that much of a programmer. I'm definitely much more of a hardware engineer. Yeah, I guess that Z80 would be it was probably the attempt to make the proprietary Intel 8080 counterpart that would be free from all that licensing and patent shenanigans, but I'm not exactly sure how the story went. Set library, interesting. Oh, let me open a tab. If I know C enough to hide it. Wow. String operations. Now that I know Python, I'd definitely do string operations in Python rather than C. Yeah, learning C, I would do it for microcontrollers because viable alternatives are not many. Unless doing that Circuit Python or MicroPython on some more modern chips. But other than that, with like at Mega or PIC, let alone some older AVR microcontrollers, I would be pretty much limited to assembly language or BASIC or BASCOM and C, of course, and Of all of those, I think I would rather choose C. Also because the Arduino IDE supports that. YAML, from what I remember, YAML is more like markup language, structured data, something like JSON. Not exactly a programming language, but I might be wrong on this one. Okay, it's almost 2 a.m. now. We've been going for almost an hour. Maybe let's get back to the bench. First of all, I think I would like to replace the screws on the power transformer. Well, because the transformer, it really has to be attached before I do anything with the amplifier. And I'd rather do it with new hardware. But generally, I will be taking the whole chassis, the whole amplifier apart, stripping the chassis to the bare metal, having it sandblasted and powder coated. It just looks very ugly and dilapidated. This amplifier deserves far better. Yeah, I think I will try to reach the screws from the underside. it's fixed. Oh, so it's past 2 now. And what's going on? Yeah, Yammer seems to rely on precise indents to define things, just like Python. It also uses significant white space. Yeah. Pain in the ass. But then, with some discipline, you can get used to it. Yeah, they should know better. Well, then the big advantage of Python is that there's so many libraries for the language. Whatever you need to do, there's probably a library for that. But with with numbers, quality doesn't have to come. Like there's so many of them, but you can never be sure that they will be properly tested and reliable. So that's both an advantage and a disadvantage. Yeah, it could be JavaScript. Yeah, don't you even get me on that one. I never learned JavaScript for the big frigging ball of fur and mud it was. Oh yeah, forceps. I got the idea of using forceps as an assembly tool from Fran when I watched her series on putting together a Heathkit signal tracer, if I remember correctly, and she used forceps for holding the parts for assembly. And then I had the opportunity to buy mine cheaply, and that's how I got into using them. Oh yeah, dependencies. That's another thing, especially if you run into a circular dependency. Excel spreadsheets, well, that's another story. Not exactly programming, unless you run into that VBA stuff. And there's one more thing I would like to show you. Today I borrowed the ZD915 desoldering gun. I'll be doing some electronic board disassembly with this thing. Gets the job done much quicker and cleaner than for example desoldering wick. And what I'm planning to do is mostly recovering parts from old boards got a lot of that stuff. Some vintage disassembled electronics. I'll be doing some component recovery from those things. Like a lot of TTO chips driving on 7-segment display that was placed in those sockets. Look at all those IC sockets. Nice stuff. Some more TTLs. And this board, it's double-sided with no... I guess it doesn't have metallized holes. Still some more. And this one is actually a lot nicer. A single-sided board on a better substrate. I think it might be FR4. And I still want to recover and test those integrated circuit bases. Yeah, writing ideal in C. VBA. Should never be mentioned this century. Neither should Perl. Nor Cobol. Yeah, with all the things we're not proud of, like using Adobe Flash in web development. Fortunately, those are days gone by. Yeah, using a ton of Flux. It works well. It's just that if you have a multi-pin component, you have to either do them one by one clean or heat them up at the same time. And in order to do the latter, get a piece of wire and put it against all the pins, create a thermal bridge, and then crank your soldering station up quite high. And this will hit all the pins at the same time. helps with disassembly a great deal. Yeah, too much flux is never enough. Get a lot of flux on that capacitor. Get a lot of flux on that capacitor and Dave Jones is gonna like it. Yeah, Pearl. Oh really? Still, websites still using Adobe Flash. I thought it went the way of the dodo. Yeah. Sometimes we do things we are definitely not proud of. Okay, so it looks like we're almost 2:30. I'm wondering because the Digital Mermaid was going to have a live stream today. And I'm pretty much waiting for that. One of the girls like us. Oh, kitty. And by the way, it's also a good thing that I've got this desoldering gun because it might help me with one repair that I had waiting for years. It's a graphic equalizer that I bought it in 2000s. I don't know squat about the brand, the manufacturer, but it's pretty nice with nitric connectors, balanced inputs and outputs. And from what I remember, it had some either a dead op amp or some other malfunction in the signal path. So I will be doing a repair video on that thing to get it back to work. It's been in and out of my hi-fi system. I don't know how many times. At some point, it just worked as a bar graph display for the signal level. Okay, Joras. See you sometime. And I will. Oh, yes. Stay right. I'm yawning already. I'm already yawning and a teeny tiny bit bored. But I will continue until past to have another UFO. I might even show you a teeny tiny bit of vacuum tube testing action. That might be a nice idea. Let me just grab the tester. So, starting with ECC83 because I had it preset, and I will have one ECC83 from the amp that I'm rebuilding. So let's start, and then the voltage is slowly brought up to the target value. Then the device is waiting until the tube heats up. Not sure if you can see it. Yeah, now it should be way better. It's testing the first half of the tube, pins number 1, 2, and 3. But then I can switch over to testing the other half. And now things are happening. Then the voltage, the plate voltage is set. The the tester is measuring current, changing then the plate voltage and the grid voltage to determine the internal resistance of the tube and the transconductance and the voltage amplification factor. Then the transconductance on this tube would be 0.9, 90k internal resistance. If I press and hold the button, I will see the nominal data. 1.6 and 62.5 and 1.2 milliamps plate current. 0.67. The tube seems dead. Well, let's test it again. Baby cuter. As in cute babies. Not exactly. That's interesting because this time the tube measured far better. And now I remember that I have to press and hold to change the system on the tube. So it's 1 more minute. pretty well. And let's hold the button and change the parameter. G11, that would be the first system of the tube. And start it. Half a minute because the tube is still heated. And look at the current on this thing. Point 33 milliamps. 0.6 milliamp per volt. Let's test it again because it doesn't take a lot of measurements. It also doesn't correct against the measurements that are definitely oddballs. But still, if you look at it, the tube is basically dead. Yeah, and let's try another one from my collection. One 1.46 and 1.5. It's far closer to nominal. I'm still keeping the woofer in mind. And the other half slightly weaker, but still good. Then I have all the tubes from this W100 amplifier. I need to test them. ECC82, ECC81, ECC83 that I just did, and of course for EL34s. And of course, like I said, it's waffle time. And let's make it count. So, we've been going from 2.5 hours now, and it's time to end the stream and see you sometime in the future. And one good thing is that my voice has completely come back to what it used to be. I'm very happy with it. And thanks anyone who suggested that might be the XBB wine.5 the Kraken. Because since I didn't lose the sense of smell and taste, I wouldn't expect that, but when I read up on symptoms, well, I guess that too many things clicked. So it was probably COVID. Catching COVID in 2023, while not catching it through all the pandemic. Well, always late to the party. See you.